Welcome to Nonprofit Expert, presented by Donor Perfect.
Hello, and welcome to Nonprofit Expert, presented by Donor Perfect. My name is Julia Gockenbach, and I'm here with our guest, Ken Miller. Ken, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to everyone who's listening.
Great, thank you. We're very excited to have you here today. A little bit of information about Ken. Ken Miller, CFRE, is a nationally recognized fundraising consultant, trainer, and speaker, and president of the Denali FSP Fundraising and Grant Consultants. With decades of experience and a deep commitment to equality and resilience, Ken has empowered nonprofits across sectors through dynamic workshops on donor engagement, digital strategy, and leadership. He is a former AFP Global board member, co-founder of Men of Color in Development, and a champion for mentorship and ethical fundraising. On today's episode, we're going to talk all about making the ask. Ken, we know that with the ask specifically and in fundraising in general, we require a lot of resilience, and you have no shortage of resilience in you and in your story. You have an amazing journey, and so I just want to share with our listeners a little bit about how you found yourself in fundraising and the resilience that you've developed over the years.
So how I found myself in fundraising is an interesting story. A real quick version of my story is that I was put up for adoption at birth. 1962, I did foster homes for 7 years. I was adopted and in New York State, moved up to Alaska, and that's where I grew up. And while in Alaska, I was what you would call precocious. I was a National Merit Scholar and I was accepted to Harvard. I ended up going to Dartmouth College for my degree. I get out of college with a degree in fraternity with a minor in drinking. And within 2 years, I was homeless on the streets, literally homeless for 20 years, in and out of the penitentiary and also homeless shelters, soup kitchens, things of that nature. In 2004, I picked up what I hoped to be my last felony, and I ended up doing 3 years in the penitentiary, came out with no skills, no skill sets, and worked in a warehouse. And then 2 to 3 years later, again, I'm still clean and sober. In fact, I just celebrated 20 years of being clean and sober in September of last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. And I was notified that there was a position as a development director. Didn't know what it did, but I needed a job. So I went down to a soup kitchen in Anchorage, Alaska called Beans Cafe and became their development director and fell in love with it. I've told people this, and I will tell them till my dying days, that I've been in sales my whole life, legal and illegal, but I've been in sales. So I was very, very comfortable in fundraising. And sometimes we don't want to use the word sales, but it is a transaction between two entities for a desired result. And there is some remuneration to the organization or the nonprofit. And so I was very, very comfortable in making the ask. And I think that helped out tremendously, but there's a lot of other things that became very comfortable within the fundraising field itself. So that's how I ended up becoming a development. It was a job open. I went down there and told them that I was here to apply for the job. And they showed me some numbers and I said, I can do this. They went out on a limb with my background. Gave me an opportunity and I did very, very well.
That's amazing. I love that about fundraising. It's like, it just kind of is ingrained in you. I feel like if you are a fundraiser, it just blossoms you hear what an organization is trying to do and you say, yeah, I can do that. I align with that. Like, it's in you. That's great. I'm so glad that you found yourself here, and grateful for your story and your resilience, and it's encouraging to fundraisers all over that you found yourself in that role and you've grown so much from that. And I know we're going to talk a lot about strategy today, but before we get into some of that, I want to hear about some of your experience. Can you tell about a time where maybe an ask surprised you, good or bad?
I have a few. If you're
Great.
in this field
We
long
love
enough,
some
you will
stories.
always have stories, because one of the reasons why you always will have stories, especially if you look at them as stories, is because you're dealing with individuals, you're dealing with people. And people are so unique in their background and their experience or their environment that they live in or, interact in. So yes, I have some stories. I'll just tell one real quick. Maybe we'll talk about a couple more later on. I was a consultant, so I was a frontline fundraiser, did major gifts, did annual campaigns, did digital, online, social media, all that, events, all that, for a soup kitchen called Beans Cafe for 4 years. And then I went out on my own on April Fool's Day, 2014. I started Denali FSP. So I am a consultant to nonprofits. I get a call from Juneau, Alaska, which is like a 2-hour flight from Anchorage. I fly down there to see the client to teach their new development person, brand new to the field. I'm going to teach them everything I know about the annual campaign, da 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 da. I come in, it's like 7:30 in the morning, and I see the executive director, and the executive director says, "Guess what? As soon as you hear that as a consultant, you're always like, uh-oh, they said, guess what?" I said, "Guess what?" And she said, "Hey, we have this donor that's coming in, and we want you to ask for $50,000. I'm like, I'm not, that's how I'm here to consult and to teach. And I was like, I can't believe they're even asking me of this because that's not my job. I've been in the building a half hour, don't know anything about the organization. So I say to him, the first thing you always say to him, I said, "Well, what's their history?" "Oh, they donated 3 years ago." I said, "Okay, 50,000. We want you to ask for another 50,000." I said, "That's all we have?" He said, "Yeah, that's it. That's all we know." So I go into the boardroom, 8 o'clock, and there's the donor, his wife, the board chair, the board treasurer, every program officer, because this is a large organization, the individual I'm training, and the executive director. So executive director is at one end of the table. I'm at the other end of the table, board chairs on the right, the donor and his wife across the table at their end. And this is how the meeting goes. "Hi, I just want to welcome everybody to the meeting. We have Mr. and Mrs. XYZ. I don't mention names. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our consultant from Anchorage, who's going to talk to the donor." That's exactly how they did it. And I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. So I say to the individual, I was talking to the gentleman, I said, "Mr. XYZ, first of all, I'd like to say we're truly appreciative of your significant gift to this organization. And I have just one question for you. Why? Why did you give this significant and considerable gift to this organization?" And then I shut up. I didn't have anything else to say. Well, I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
It was great,
You
but
had
it
to
was a great
learn for a
act.
minute.
But so anyway, so the individual got quiet. Everybody's looking at me like I'm supposed to talk about the organization, ask all the program people what they do, da da da, go around the room, whatever. That's not a major gift ask. And also I know how to be quiet. I mean, I'm trained in this. I train on this. I just got quiet. I mean, what am I going to lose? I'm just a consultant coming in. And so finally he said, "The reason that we flew up from California is because we gave a gift of $50,000 3 years ago. We haven't heard a single thing from you since. We didn't even know if you we saw the check it in cap, but we hadn't heard anything. No thank you, no acknowledgement, whatever." And we're listening. Everybody's like got their head down. And I said, "Mr. and Mrs. Donor, the reason I'm here is because we've had some transition within the development sector, the development team here. And I want to apologize on behalf of the organization for not, sending you a thank you or a use of funds letter. But again, I want to thank you for your donation. But why did you donate?" Got quiet again. They sat there. People were looking at me like, "Aren't you supposed to say more?" And he said, "Well, the reason is you have a hospice program. And my brother was in the hospice program that you have. And it was it was a very, very good program for him before he passed. And so in recognition and thankfulness of what you provided in your hospice program, we provided $50,000. I said again, thank you. You know, that program is growing. That program has done a lot for our community, and obviously it is done for you. And I'd like to know, would you be comfortable with making a donation this year for 75,000? Remember, I was only supposed to ask for 50. I upped it to 75. And it got quiet again. Everybody's like, again, I didn't talk about anything else. I just said, thank you. It got quiet. It was quiet for a good 20, 30 seconds. And across the table, his wife, this is an older couple, they're Basque, from the Basque region of France and Spain. And I'll never forget, she said, just do it. And he said, okay. He said, I'll do it. And I'm also gonna get my other brother to do another 75 to match mine. So we ended up with $150,000. The whole meeting couldn't have been more than 5 minutes, 8 minutes total. So that is one that was a big surprise.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's even better not to have too much information because you talk yourself out of the donation, or you don't give any space for the individual to think, both emotionally and rationally. Once I got their why, which is the emotion, I can teach this, and we'll talk about this a little bit. Once I got to their why, they are ready, because it made those individuals feel good to make that donation in memory of their brother who they lost, but we had helped out tremendously in those last few months. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
That is so exciting. I feel like being in that room, I would have been sweating and crying and celebrating. That is a unique experience for sure, and a surprising one. That you're right. I love the idea of asking the why, and skip to the end of the podcast. Maybe that is the most important question. This podcast is all about the ask, and is that the ask? What would you say?
There's more to the ask. I have a whole sequence that I teach when I'm teaching major gift work. There's companies that teach it over months. I keep it simple, but the why to me is the most important question that you can ask. People give, please understand this, and I'm talking to the audience. People give emotionally. The number one reason that people give is because it makes them feel good to write the check or to make their online donation. It makes them feel good. And so what can I do to get them feeling good? Because it's an emotion. Feeling good is emotion. So I need to get them into an emotional reason. So what we do is we buy emotionally, and then we justify the purchase rationally. That's what we do. When we buy a car, when we buy, anything that's tangible, we always on the back end rationalize or justify intellectually. But the ask and the emotion that comes from what I call the actualization of the gift is emotional.
I have never thought about it that way. I've never thought about you buy emotionally and then you rationalize after the fact.
So why do you go for a test drive?
To see if I like the car.
Because it engages the senses. They have a spray, they call it new car spray smell. And they will put that in the car. Believe me when I tell you this, I learned this in sales in 1984 when I was working for Kodak. I learned this. Okay. So how do we get people to the emotional part? And it's not that we're playing tricks on them. I teach a whole class on behavioral economics. Okay. And how you can use heuristics and behavioral economics to modify or nudge people in a certain direction. Okay, there's a thing called anchoring, there's a thing called primacy, there's a thing called recency. I can teach all that. But the key one for this conversation for major gift work is allowing people to have that emotional feeling again. And this is a key. I don't know when we're going to get to the part because I could go through this.
No, do it. Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. So a major gift ask. I'm talking about the ask part. So first is the prep to get to the ask. Okay. And the prep is the first thing I want to do if I come into a new company and I have a list of major donors, or if I have what we call portfolio of individuals that I am supposed to be the major gift officer for. First thing I'm going to do is look at my list. And usually I'm going to look at the largest gift and work my way down because I want to get the most bang for it because I have to start priming it. And the first thing I'm going to do is establish either a meeting and or online or in person just to thank them. That's the only thing I want to do is thank them. And then also I want to give them an understanding of what we call use of funds, what your gift accomplished. Now these are people who are past donors, past major gift donors, okay, to our organization. That's number one. Then I'll do that 1 or 2 meetings. There's a timeline depending on the complexity of maybe the past gift and or how long ago it's been since the last gift. But then what I'm going to do is set up the meeting for the ask. And literally by the time you get to that meeting, they already know you're going to make an ask. Literally, they know that. You thanked them, because this is another key. Every single meeting, I talk about the future. This is so important. And I don't care if it's an annual campaign, every letter, every email that's going out, annual campaign, let alone major gift work, I'm talking about the future. Why do you talk about the future, Ken? Because people cannot donate to the past. They can't. They can't even donate to the present. It just went by. All they can do is support the future. So I'm painting a picture of, man, if I gave them $10,000 or 100 or 10 million, they could do this because they told me this year, they have a couple super projects that they're working on or programs. So I always talk about the future. Okay. In the meeting, it goes like this. You go to the meeting, you do your introductions. First thing I'm always going to do is thank you. I teach this all the time. I start with a thank, I end with a thank or thank you. Okay. So I want to thank you. I use the word considerable or significant. I would love to thank you for your significant support, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. And then we get into, I just want to touch back. I remember you were saying something to the effect that the reason why you support us at this level was because we had sent your 2 children to the college, okay, to the university, and they had a wonderful experience. They're doing great. In fact, how are they doing? Good. Now I'm getting back into the emotion of why they gave the last gift or gifts. Okay. Now they're back. Oh yeah, you guys gave them a good education. Now they're doing great. The daughter has kids, and and she's doing great in her career. Son's doing great. Then once they've gotten back now into the emotional, I go directly into the future. Well, this year, we're hoping to do 2 more endowments. One in the School of Biology and one in the School of Athletics. Just throwing out stuff. And I go always paint a picture of the future. And then once I've asked any question, because now we're somewhat into the intellectual. Because remember, they got to rationalize why they feel good to give this donation. Oh, if I give 10 million, I can help build that endowment for that new professorship or that new department. Okay. And then, then after they've maybe asked any questions, any concerns, or any other thoughts, or any more information they need, then I make the ask. And the ask is very simple. Would you be open to supporting us at a level of $10 million this year? Then we shut up. And usually I'm looking at, if there's a couple, I'm looking at the wife. Because 80, 90% of the time she's making the decision. She's making the decision. Okay. And he will do what I do with my wife. Is that what you want? Okay. Okay, I'll get the credit card. Okay. And then remember, there's only 3 answers. Yes, no, not now. 2 of them are good. Not now is a pledge to me. Because my thing then is to say, well, when is a comfortable time? Would it be better toward the end of the year? Are there any tax ramifications? Do you have any concerns on channels or vehicles to make the gift? ... And then I always end with thank you. And it can be a little more technical things about how we're going to actualize the gift. If it's stocks, or, it's whatever, if it's deferred, not deferred.
That's incredibly practical. I feel like you just walked me through an ask meeting. That copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. I could do that over and over.
When I teach it, I say the 2 most are why and future. You can even forget a thank you. You can go directly into, oh, I was looking at my records and the reason why, or the reason you've supported us in the past was XYZ. Okay. And you forgot to thank you. Okay. But it's real difficult. See, I think some individuals make problems, or they think is they got to go right into the intellectual. Okay, hey, the reason I brought us together is we have this wing that we're trying to build, or we have this endowment, or we have this program, or we have this professorship that we're trying to fund. And can you give us 10 million? Get them back into the why. And then thank them. Please, at least thank them. And if they say no, I always thank you for your time. Thank you for taking and your past support of this wonderful organization that I'm here representing. Okay? The difficulty also is this: many major gift officers, or many times, especially with smaller houses, is that this, but the person making the ask is the executive director or the board chair or a board person, and they don't know. And it's your job as a development director or major gift officers to train them on, here's how we're going to do it, whether you take it from me or from Veritas or whoever is teaching you. Know the system. And once you've done it a few times, it's easy. I haven't made a major gift ask in a while because I'm a consultant, but I've taught a lot of people, and I have made a lot and have brought in some money.
What you're saying about the why is so interesting. And you talked about starting with a thank you, but even if it's a first time relationship with a new giver, if you do skip the thank you because they haven't given yet, starting with the why are you here today? Were you interested in sitting down with us? Why is this organization on your radar? You can still ask that why question even if they haven't given a gift yet.
But please understand that the thank you is emotional. You start with emotion. A thank you is an acknowledgement of you as an entity, as a person. I'm acknowledging you and saying to you, I am appreciative of your action, but more importantly, of you as a person. That's a lot of times we go into this transactional. I'm not thanking you for the gift. I'm thanking you for being who you are. A person that's willing to support something that you believe in our community. That's what I'm really thanking.
That's a great distinction, because there is, you're showing the difference between a transactional thank you and an emotional thank you. And I've never thought about it like that. That's really powerful.
Yeah. Let me say the most important thing that I may say today, and it's this. I provide individuals, couples, and families the opportunity to feel good. That's what I do when I make the ask. I provide an opportunity to feel good about something that I believe in. I learned that probably about a week or 2 weeks. I don't know how I learned it. I don't know if it came through osmosis. I read it somewhere. But once I got that, fundraising for me was a piece of cake. I had no problem with doing annual appeals. I had no problem doing major gift work. And if you could say I got fortunate because my first three asks, two of them gave me more than I asked for. And then the other one gave me what I asked for. I came in and my first ask was for 10,000. I didn't know anything about the organization. 1 week into working for Beans Cafe, my executive director said, go talk to this gentleman who was the past president of ConocoPhillips, Alaska. And I sit down, I'm just excited. And he said, I don't know what you just said or talked about, but you're so excited. I'll give you 14. Because I can see you're just so excited about the organization. And I like Beans Cafe. So you asked for 10, I'll give you 14. I'm gonna write a check right now. And he literally wrote a check. I thought it was gonna be that easy. Thought I'd just walk up and down the street and just stop people and say, hey, support Beans Cafe and feeding hungry adults and children in Anchorage. It's not like that.
I love it. Yeah, that's great. And that goes back to the emotional part of things. He saw that emotion in you and it was contagious. Yeah. I mentioned as a fundraiser, the ask was always kind of intimidating to me, but the way you're breaking it down, you've broken down some walls by giving them an opportunity to say why, and the idea of I'm giving you an opportunity to be part of something. So the rejection isn't as scary because they're not rejecting you. They're just saying, no, I don't want to be part of that.
Not even that. You could say it like that. They're saying no. See, the part, you can't read a person's mind. You don't know what's in their mind. They could be going through a family issue. They could be going through a marriage issue. They could be going through a financial issue. You don't know that, okay? Or they're mad because they never got a thank you, okay? And you don't know that. Or they're upset because there's a new major gift officer and they worked with the same person for 6 years in the past. And they're really trying to see if they can trust you, if you're going to bring the same to the table that my former major gift offer, MGO, did. Okay, that's major gift officer. So we don't know that, but I gave you the opportunity to feel good. And if you don't want to embrace that at this point, I so respect that because I'm going to thank you for your past support. What a great, you know what? Somebody asked me, I've been working in the fundraising. This is 15 years ago. I was working in the fundraising field about a month, and somebody said, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "I thank people for a living. That's what I do. I get paid well to thank people for a living." I love that. That's what I do.
That is a dream job. I mean, anybody listening to this podcast who's thinking about how to define their job and able to take on, I get to thank people for a living. That's amazing. So that is obviously one side of this. And I think that is the pretty side, that I get to thank people for a living. What would you say to a fundraiser who maybe is afraid of being too pushy, or I don't know, maybe people aren't going to want to meet with me because they know I'm going to ask them and I don't want that reputation? What would you say to someone who has that fear?
So first of all, I would talk to them about what is fear. I'd break it down. What is fear? And I speak on this, so I'm very, very cognizant of what fear is. Fear is a future anticipation of pain. That's all it is. The future anticipation or expectation of pain. And then you have to identify what is the pain of that individual saying no. Because what we do is we go into these meetings with two fears: fear of the no and fear of competency or lack of competency. Okay? We're not good enough to be doing this job. I know many major gift officers that make over $250,000 a year. Okay? It's well paying because to be good at it, to be effective at it, you have to learn how to do it well and to understand it's not about you. The difficulty is that we internalize it. And literally, if someone says no, it's shame-based, okay, versus guilt. Guilt says I did. Shame says I am, okay? So when we go in there and we get a no, instead of saying, I did something, maybe it wasn't the best ask, maybe I'm not competent, but that's an action step as opposed to I am not competent. That's shame-based. And so how do we turn away from that? Number one, and a very good development director, CDO, a vice provost of advancement will, a lot of times will send you out on some, we know you and get a win, okay? Like when my executive director sent me, he knew the guy was going to donate. I mean, he's known the guy for years, and he used to work with him, okay, at ConocoPhillips, and then he became the executive director of Beans Cafe. And so he sort of knew, and so I got this win from the beginning. If I'd gotten, let's say, 3 no's, it would have been probably difficult because I would have questioned my competency, okay? I am not good as a fundraiser. So get some wins underneath you, but go in there. It's not about you. It literally is about this transaction. So that's what that's what I would, I would recommend. But look at the fear, look at the pain, try to understand it in relationship to you. They're not saying no to you. They're saying no to this engagement, this transaction. And 99% of the time, it's not about you. It isn't.
And it's hard because, like you said, with your $14,000 gift, it is so personal. You were so excited about the mission. And so I think fundraisers get so connected to the mission that we also get so connected to the giving. So kind of uncoupling the personalization of that is an interesting habit, maybe is the best way to say that.
Whether you get the gift or not, the organization should remain viable. It should not remain. Now, I've seen organizations go under, literally go under because they lost a grant. I've seen programs, it's happening right now as we speak. But that's different. That is, that's restricted funding toward a program project or the organization where they put too many of their eggs into one basket in the grant world. But an organization in any way, shape, or form should not be reliant on one donation or one donor. Because again, donors move on to other organizations, donors pass away, donors have family, marital, financial problems. And if you're relying on one individual or 2 individuals to keep the lights on, you have a major problem. Major problem. Your funnel is too small. Your pyramid doesn't have enough on the bottom to move people up, or you're doing a very, very poor job of retention and moves management.
How would you encourage someone who might find themselves in that position? What can they do to widen their audience?
Yeah, you'd have to do wealth screening. First thing I would do is go into the organization and do wealth screening of my present donors. And then you have to start looking at wealth screening for what we call prospects. And so whenever I do direct mail acquisition to acquire new donors, how I buy and purchase my list, because I'm a list purchaser, I don't borrow or exchange. And this is what I teach. I've worked with 140 clients, so please let you know that I know what I'm talking about here. What I would do is I always screen it by wealth. So what I'm looking for is individuals, families, and couples that have given at least $500 single gift within a geographic physical area, because most individuals donate locally.
Yeah, that's helpful advice for sure. Okay, I have one last question for you before we wrap up. If you were to speak to Ken, who started up Beans Cafe, before you locked in that $14,000 gift, if you could give that Ken one point of advice, what would it be?
You mean when I started, one piece of advice?
Now that you've been through many years of major gift fundraising, what's a good piece of advice for someone just starting out? Or
Just about major gifts?
let's do one major gifts and one general fundraising.
The one piece of advice that I would give myself today, because I didn't do this originally, is I would have started with my largest donor and worked my way down. I didn't. I just literally started with, I had 800 donors that had given at least $500 single gift. And that's what I would have done. I would have sorted them by the size of the gift and then worked my way down. Right? That would be the first one.
That's helpful and practical as well. Is there another one that you'd like to share?
Oh, yeah, definitely this. I would have became a consultant sooner. Why, Ken? Because I did 4 years as a frontline. Because I help more people. And I love helping. I love my clients. I love the individuals I teach. I love because I can touch more people. I believe in what nonprofits do. I believe in philanthropy. I understand it, even though there are people who are really fighting us right now. Okay? But I believe in it and I understand it. I was a recipient of nonprofits for years. I was in soup kitchens. I was in shelters. Those are all nonprofits. And without those, I probably wouldn't be here today. Without someone giving me a meal, a handout, without someone providing a mat that I could lay my head in safety, I wouldn't probably be here, okay? Or I'd be on a mat somewhere else without being able to get out for a long time. So I'm so thankful. And I've seen so many different types of nonprofits and understand what we do for our environment, for arts and culture, for education, for social services, for religion, and spiritual, that I am just the biggest advocate. But for me to help, I need to teach more. And that's why I come on podcasts like this. And I'm so thankful to you, Julie. I really am, that I can share. And if I leave anything, it's not the technical, it's that I believe in what we do as honorable, as fundraisers, and I believe in your competency as a fundraiser, those who are listening, truly. And if you have any questions about anything I've spoken about, for free, just email me, and you have my email. Call me. I only have one phone number. I've had for 15. I'm not afraid of anything or anybody, literally. Well, my wife, I'm not afraid of anything, but I'm not. I'm just not. So I just have one phone number. I pick up my phone. I answer it. And I do my email. So that's what I'd like to say. I went a little longer than I thought, but I just get so excited.
I love that, Ken. And it's so clear your passion and how helpful you are to fundraisers. Thank you for being so accessible. It's really amazing that you've offered this to our listeners. And I'm hopeful that they will leave this podcast and just know how to get started and feel encouraged. You're such an encouragement and your joy is very clear. So thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for being here. I've really enjoyed speaking with you and look forward to speaking again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Nonprofit Expert, presented by Donor Perfect. For more information and a special offer, visit donorperfect.com/podcast.